Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon. So, saya ucap terima kasih pada semua yang join FSGM webinar siri keempat ni. So, this is Faculty of Applied and Human Sciences Universiti Malaysia Perlis webinar siri 4. Hari ini kita akan ada seminar by Dr. Ehsan bin Ismail, talking about the government strategies in developing STEM talent. Okay, sebelum kita mula ni saya just brief berkenaan dengan Dr. Ehsan Ismail. Saya harap semua dapat tengok slide saya share ni. Dr. Ehsan ni sebagai Ketua Penolong Pengarah Kanan Pusat STEM Negara, Bahagian Perancangan dan Pendidikan Dasar Pendidikan KPM. Nanti dalam seminar ni, Dr. Ehsan akan brief apa itu pusat STEM negara lah. Okay, most of us maybe tahu pasal pusat sains negara. So now we have a pusat STEM negara bawah KPM. Pusat sains negara bawah MOSTI. Okay, so Dr. Ehsan asal daripada Kedah, umur 51 tahun. Pendidikan PhD daripada University of Warwick, UK, Data Environment Analysis. Kalau tak salah saya pernah jumpa Dr. Ehsan di UK dululah, waktu saya di Nottingham. Pendidikan Dr. Ehsan juga ada Master Education daripada UKM, dan Bachelor Science, Mathematics, Statistik and Operational Research daripada Manchester, UK. Saya ingat tanpa membuang masa lagi, saya menjemput Dr. Ehsan untuk seminar bertajuk Government Strategies and Developing STEM Talent. Seminar ni lebih kurang daripada 2:30 sampai pukul 4. Dan kita akan ada Q&A session selepas tu lah. Ataupun Dr. Ehsan akan buat dalam tempoh tu. Itu pulang ke Dr. Ehsan lah. So, dengan saya hormat saya menjemput Dr. Ehsan.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih Dr. Nazri yang dengan memberikan sedikit pengenalan ringkas tentang saya. Okay, saya perlu share slide. Mohon pihak teknikal untuk bolehkan saya share. So first of all, I would like to thank UNIMAP for this opportunity. I'm honored to be given the opportunity to talk to University Lecturer UNIMAP in particular, and also all participants. I'm sure our participants there are a lot of teachers here, PhD lecturers. And I recognize one name here, Dr. Nabil. Dr. Nabil ni pensyarah UNIMAP kan? Ada email saya baru ni, tapi saya tak sempat nak reply lagi. Saya really appreciate your email and I will reply to your email and we can discuss our collaboration lepas ni. Okay, let me share my screen first. Okay, boleh nampak screen saya? Alright. Ini boleh kecil. Okay. Alright. So this is the title of my presentation: Government Strategies in Developing STEM Talent. And actually, I've been presenting this topic a few times to a number of platforms. I first presented this topic at in a forum with Academy Science Malaysia sometime in 2020. This is actually the strategies that MOE, especially under National STEM Center, have been trying very hard to ensure that we are preparing our kids or children with the right skills for the sake of their future. Yeah? So as we all know, we are living in the era of fourth industrial revolution. There have been a lot of significant changes to the world. I'm pretty sure most of us are very aware of what we call fourth industrial revolution. And due to this fourth industrial revolution, a significant change in the way we work has happened, and this is due to the emergence of digital systems, network communications, machine learning, and large-scale data analysis. Due to, for example, artificial intelligence, so most of the jobs nowadays requires us to have a certain set of skills, and it involves all type of jobs, not only STEM related jobs or jobs that is related to technology, engineering, and something like that, but everything is now affected. So this is what we call this digital disruption. It disrupts every industry, and it reshapes how we work, we relate, communicate, and learn, and it reinventing institution, and all institutions from education to transportation to all other institutions. So because of this, the job landscape is also different now. According to World Economic Forum, 5 million jobs will have been lost to automation. Yeah? However, due to technological advance, it also creates new jobs. There are new jobs that was not here maybe 5-10 years ago, but we are seeing new jobs now. But I'm very, very sure in 5-10 years time, even in longer time, 20 years, for example, there are going to be many, many more new jobs. And because of that, we need to prepare our students to have the skills required in order for them to get a kind of job, or even for them to maybe create their own jobs. They can become job creator in the future. So what kind of skills that they must have? According to World Economic Forum, they convened last year in Davos. New jobs mostly are related to technology, robotic, because of machine learning. So we need to have expert in machine learning, in robotic, in artificial intelligence, in big data, and so on. So how can we prepare our students to get this kind of skills? But before that, let us look at the kind of jobs that will be in the future, that will be there in the future, increasing demands. Actually, some of the jobs are already here. And the first one is data analyst and scientist. This is according to World Economic Forums. By 2025, this is going to be number one. Actually, this kind of jobs are already here, but in terms of demand, we need more. We need more people to do this kind of job. Data analyst and scientist. Second one is AI, artificial intelligence and machine learning specialist, and then big data specialist. And yeah, you can see from number 1 to up to number 10. Mostly they are about technology. They are about the kind of jobs that we have the skill. We must have the skills to think analytically. Yeah. And if you look at number 14, robotic engineers, it's good that most of the schools in Malaysia nowadays they expose our children, our kids to robotic. This is very good because robotic engineers are one of the emerging jobs in the future. And how can we ensure that our kids can get this kind of jobs? What are the skills that they must have? So according to World Economic Forum's top 15 skills for 2025, the first one is analytical thinking and innovation. So in order for us to become data analysts, for example, to become artificial intelligence and machine learning specialists, what we need is the ability to think analytically and to innovate. So we must ensure that our kids get this kind of skills. And this is number one skills. Secondly, active learning and learning strategies. Third, complex problem solving, and then critical thinking and analysis. Number five, creativity, originality, and initiative, and then leadership and social influence, technology use, monitoring and control, technology design and programming, and so on. And on the left, not left, but in the middle, you can see number nine, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. This is also very important. Our kids, they must also have this kind of skills where they are resilient, they can tolerate stress, they can be flexible. And if you look at number 15, persuasion and negotiation. So these kind of skills are also very important in order for our kids to be able to survive in the future, to be able to get the jobs that will be there, and for them to be able to create their own job. Yeah. So we are not talking about just trying to get jobs, but we have to prepare our kids to create their own jobs. And nowadays, we can see that some of the science, maybe 20, 30 years ago, are already science fact. So this is what we are seeing now. Some of the science, to us, it was science fiction. Maybe when we were in our primary schools. I myself, I was in primary school in 70s and 80s. So I watch TV series, movies about science fiction. But now I can see that most of the science fiction back then are now science facts. So what will happen in 15, 20 years? Maybe something that we thought that is just science fiction now will become reality in the future. So we have to ensure that our kids are prepared for this kind of life. Yeah? Okay, as teachers and myself at the Ministry of Education and our lecturers at the university, we have to ensure that our kids get the education for the future. Yeah? Prepare them for the future. So how to prepare students with future ready skills? Yeah? This is the skills that actually I have just shown this from World Economic Forum. Prepare students with future ready skills. They are some of them are analytical thinking and innovation. This is number one. Complex problem solving, critical thinking analysis, resilience, stress tolerance, flexibility, persuasion, and negotiation. So there are a lot more skills that they need, but these are among the most important, and we have to ensure that our kids get these kind of skills. Yeah, because this is future ready skills. And then we have to ensure that our workforce, our students will become workforce and they are well educated, because when our workforce are well educated, they will contribute to strong economy, which is very important for the country. And because of what is happening now, there are disruption to workforce. Yeah, because of digital disruption, for example, it also disrupt workforce. So we have to prepare our workforce to overcome this disruption with technical skills and employability skills. Yeah? And one more important thing that we have to bear in mind is that our country must remain competitive, and in order for any nation to become competitive, they must have STEM capable workers at every education level. So now we are talking about ensuring that our students at every level, they are STEM literate, and when they finish their school, they become STEM capable workers. Not only those who are in the science stream, but I'm talking about all students. They must be STEM literate and STEM capable. But how do we prepare our students currently for the examination? How do we prepare them? Are we preparing our students for the future, like what is mentioned in this slide? Actually, what I can see is that most of the schools are now preparing our students to get excellent result in examination through answering exam technique, drilling, through motivational camp, seminar. At the beginning of the year, they must have set certain target to achieve. Yeah, we have been doing this kind of activities for the past maybe 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. what do we get from all these activities? Yeah? Actually, when I mentioned that we have to ensure that our kids really learn through hands-on activity, experiential learning, and so on, one of most of the comments that I got is that teachers cannot do that because they have to prepare students for exam, and their KPI, the performance is being measured through the students' performance in examination. But the question is, in order to prepare students for exam, is there any other way apart from drilling them with exam questions, drilling them with answering exam questions, exam technique, and so on? Is there any other way? Of course, we want our students, we want our kids to excel in the examination. That is for sure. But in order for them to excel in examination, what we need to do first is to ensure that they really understand what they learn, they are interested, they are motivated. And of course, after that, they will learn very hard by themselves. So then, and they will definitely get good result in examination. Yeah, of course we can do this as answering exam technique, drilling, and so on. Maybe later towards the end of the year when we are nearing the examination dates. But when they are already they have done activities that will make sure that they really understand, they have understand the basic concept and so on, it will definitely help them to excel in examination. And after what we have done for the past 10 years, I think about 10 years, with all these kind of activities, what happened to the performance of our students in examination? I give here example, not example, but the performance of our students in PT3, PMR in 2013, and then starting from 2014, PT3. This is the real results, the performance of our students throughout Malaysia. And this is the percentage of students who fail science and mathematics. In 2013, the failures is around 5%, but in 2014, it jumped to between 55 to 65% for both mathematics and science. Why? Because we changed PMR to PT3, and the way we ask questions, the way we there were a lot of HOTS or KBAT questions starting from 2014. So because of that, our students cannot perform in science and mathematics PT3. Yeah, more than 50% fail. And from 2014 up to 2019, the performance is about the same, where the number of failures is about 50% for both subjects. Despite our efforts to do all these things, to do the drilling, to do the answering exam technique, to do camp and so on, but this is what we got. This is for the whole Malaysia. I am not looking at any specific example, but this is the result for all students in Malaysia from 2013 to 2019. Okay, this is the percentage of students who fail science and mathematics. Next slide shows the percentage of students who qualified to take STEM package. Previously, we didn't call this STEM package, but they are actually science and technical stream, yeah, as opposed to art stream. But now, starting from 2020, we change it to STEM package. We have 3 packages, STEM A, B, and C. And in order for our students to be able to join STEM package, they must get at least C in both mathematics and science. But in certain cases, we allow those who got less than C, maybe D in maths or science, if they are interested and the teachers feel that they can take STEM package, then they can take or they can enroll in STEM package. And in terms of the percentage who qualified with at least C in science and mathematics, we can see that the percentage is less than 30%, starting from 2014 all the way up to 2019, even though there is slight improvement for mathematics in 2019, but for science, they are just about the same. Despite, once again, I want to say this once again, despite all the efforts to prepare our students for the examination, we still cannot get the number of percentage who qualify for exam vacation. We cannot increase the percentage. So definitely we need to do something about this. We cannot continue with this kind of activities. Yeah, of course we can do this, but cannot do this from the beginning, at the beginning of the year up to the exam time. If we just focus on doing this all the time, you see the result in Malaysia, no improvement. So when okay, I mentioned earlier, when I talk about we need to focus more on doing hands-on activity to ensure that our students really learn and understand. Most of the comments that I got was that teachers need to prepare students for exam, so they have no choice but to do all these things. Okay, what happened to my slide? Okay, next slide. Okay, sorry, something wrong. There is a technical problem here. Let me reshare the slide. Okay, so this is the percentage of students who are in STEM. Okay, STEM stream previously, starting from 2020, we call it package. The good news is that in 2020, the percentage has gone up from 43 something to 47.18%. Yeah, so yeah, previously 43.7, now 47.2%. Meaning, after 4 or 5 years that we have been focusing on STEM, there is some kind of improvement. I am hoping that by next year and onwards, we will have more students who are in STEM stream. Yeah? So this is something that is a relief for us. Yeah? And in the new era of learning, our students nowadays, they have different mindset, different outlook, different set of interests and skills, and a different way of thinking and reacting. Especially in this era of COVID-19, most of them, they use their device, computer, phone, to learn, to interact with teachers, and most of there are many, a lot of them who use this device to play games. Yeah? So actually, they have different kind of thinking. So teachers need to evolve and change the way they teach to meet students' learning styles and needs. Yeah? I know this is easier said than done. It's easier for me to tell teachers to evolve and to change the way you teach, but you are the ones who are facing the students. Of course, we cannot change and get results overnight. We need times to do the changes and to see the results, the impact. And at National STEM Center, we will help teachers, especially science and math teachers, to try to change the way you teach math and science through inquiry-based science education and inquiry-based mathematics education. Yeah? So in this high-tech, fast-paced, connected world, teachers need to change faster, develop new teaching skills. Yeah? And as I have shown in the earlier slides, we need to ensure that our kids get the skills that will make them able to get a job in the future. And most of the skills are about thinking. So we have to promote problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, time management, and adaptability, some of the skills. Yeah? And when we do our PDP, our teaching and learning process, we need to promote all these things and prepare students for the 21st century education. So this is the new era of learning, and it's going to be even more different in the future. And I think in just be different again. So we need to prepare. We need to have the skills, and we have to ensure that our students are interested to learn through methods that we use. Okay, so as I have mentioned in the earlier slides about the need to prepare STEM capable workforce. So now we are at the Ministry of Education Malaysia, we are focusing on STEM education. We started this journey since 2016, 5 years ago. We first started with the STEM Education Initiative, where STEM is actually a curriculum based on the idea of educating students in 4 specific disciplines: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, in an interdisciplinary and applied approach. So rather than teaching the 4 disciplines as a separate and discrete subjects, STEM integrates them into a cohesive learning paradigm based on real-world applications. Actually, at the moment, we still teach mathematics, science, and other subjects separately. We don't have a specific curriculum for STEM education. We still use our current curriculum for separate subjects, but we want our teachers to do project-based education, where in this project-based they can integrate all the disciplines, so that our students would be able to apply what they have learned from the separate subject, from the specific subjects, solve real world problems. So the approach that we use at the moment is after our students have the skills that they can get from each subject, they can use them to solve real world problems, by integrating, by applying all the skills that they have got. So the strategies that we at the Ministry of Education use to increase students in STEM, or to prepare STEM talent, because we need to ensure that our workforce, they are STEM capable. If we are not doing anything, or if we don't do something now, we just leave the situation like this, where more and more students are not interested to go into STEM, because maybe STEM is difficult, because STEM is not interesting. Then our country will be in will jeopardize our country, or our country will be in danger, because we don't have STEM capable workforce. That's why at the Ministry of Education, we want to help our students starting from their preschool. When they were in preschool, they must be exposed to STEM skills. So the 4 strategies, the first strategy is to increase students, teachers, and parents' awareness about the importance of STEM. Just now, Dr. Nazri informed me that there are schools in Perlis who were forced, sort of pressured to close the science. And those who were pressuring the school to close science stream were actually parents. Meaning parents, they are not aware of the importance of STEM. They just want to ensure that their kids can get excellent result in examination, no matter in what stream or package. To them, STEM is not important as long as their student can get good result in examination. This is actually not right, not the right thing to do, since we have to ensure that our students, they are STEM literate, they are STEM capable. So first strategy is to increase not only parents, but also students, teachers, and communities in general, awareness about the importance of STEM. Secondly, when the awareness among students especially and teachers have increased, we don't want this awareness to go back down. So we have to do something to increase their interest and skills. And how can we do that? our strategy is to ensure that our kids get these skills through integrated STEM and 21st century teaching and learning process. Okay, even though we don't have a specific subject called integrated STEM, but from the individual STEM subject, when they do activities, when they do project-based activities, they can integrate STEM. So this is what we are trying to do through integrated STEM and 21st century teaching and learning process. Thirdly, in order for our students to be able to get the skills of this integrated STEM, we have to increase our teachers' competency in conducting integrated STEM teaching and learning process. So that is the third strategies where we will train our teachers. We will help to increase our teachers' competency, especially in integrated STEM and learning process. And number 4 is to conduct research and development in STEM education. So we are currently doing this research and development activities in collaboration with universities, private, public and also private universities in Malaysia, and also other agencies. We are open to any agency for us to collaborate and conduct research and development in STEM education. So these are the 4 strategies to increase participants in STEM so that we can prepare our students to become STEM capable workforce in the future. And to look at this in more detail, so this is the framework of our STEM education initiative with the 4 strategies. The aim is to increase the number of literate students. If possible, we want all of our students to become STEM literate, where when we talk about STEM literate, we want them to become technology literate, they have logical thinking, they are creative, innovative, inventive, and they can become problem solver. So we have 4 KPIs. Based on the 4 strategies, we have 4 KPIs. The first one is for the school leaders, where we want our school leaders, our school administrators to support and to implement student-centered activities. Yeah? We always talk about student-centered education, student-centered activities, but when we go to school, you can see that when we focus to ensure that our students excel in examination, it will definitely be teacher-centered teaching and learning process. Yeah? So we want our school leaders to implement student-centered activities where students will do activities when they want to learn about something. They have to do activities and they learn from their activities. Yeah? And the student-centered activities, we are going to have awareness program for school leaders, and to help teachers do student-centered activities, especially at the upper secondary level. We want our students to be able to do experiments in the science lab. So the strategy is to upgrade the infrastructure of STEM, especially science lab. Yeah? We have already upgraded 1,216 science lab in 2018, and at the moment we are applying for more allocation to upgrade other school science lab in which are yeah. And one more initiative that actually we managed to change this, the PCG or per capita grant for pure science subject. This is something new. We just achieved this last year, at the end of last year, where we managed to increase the per capita grant for pure science subject from 14 ringgit to 65 ringgit. So with new PCG, our schools that have pure science money for the teaching and learning process of pure science subjects. Okay, and another thing is that we have accomplished in our effort to reintroduce science practical exam in SPM. Starting from 2021, our SPM students will have to take science practical exam. This will contribute to implementation of STEM center activities, and we want our school leaders, our school administrators to support and ensure that our students are given the opportunity to do these things. Second one, for the teachers, we want to increase teachers' competency through a lot of training. We train science and mathematics teachers through IBSC and IBME, and for others like RT, computer science, even preschool, we also have program for them to increase their competence with regards to STEM. And for students, we have what we call STEMs, where through this we are quite sure that it increase students' interest, awareness, interest, and also they will be able to involve in integrated STEM and through 21st century teaching and learning process. We have STEM digital games, hackathon, smart learning, and school lab competition. The one that blue competition, we are going to collaborate this year to do this program in the whole country, in Malaysia. And for parents, we are going to have this STEM for all carnival that will involve parents and community so that their awareness level will increase. So these are among the strategies and activities that we are currently to that there will be an increase in student in STEM, and in the future we can get more STEM capable students. And the Ministry of Education usually has established a center called National STEM Center. So at the moment, National STEM Center is the agency that is focusing on doing this aspect. Work is under Ministry of Education. First, about the center, to when actually Musti was the one who discuss and come up with the idea to set this center. It was in 2017, and Musti, together with MOE at the time and MOHE, we have come. And but in 2018, the center was interimly and it was put under MOE. Why? Because the main focus of the center is to help teachers and students. We have a science center under MOE. The objective of that center is to give to all Malaysians about science, but STEM Center, National STEM Center, focus on helping teachers and students, so that teachers and students the teaching of STEM, and this will lead to the increased number of students who they will apply STEM related course at the university. So that's why the focus is education for our teachers and students. And the main functions of this National STEM Center is to develop competency of STEM teachers, to plan and implement engagement and enrichment activities. This is collaboration with a lot of agencies, private, public, private, NGO, even international body, The other function is to plan and coordinate research and development activities. And one more is as a data and STEM resources repository. So this STEM initiative, we are hoping to produce STEM literate students who are creative, innovative, inventive, and able to identify, apply, and integrate STEM concept to real world problems. And this is very important. In STEM approach, we want it to be hands-on and integrated. Hands-on. When our kids learn science, especially even other subject, mathematics, RBT, they need to do the hands-on activity. They cannot just read and try to understand the concept from their reading. So they have to do activities. That's why in STEM education, we use this approach of STEM hands-on and integrated, where the PDP or teaching and learning must be inquiry-based, process-focused, and student-centered. Okay. From this approach, we are in the opportunities for students to think analytically, critically, creatively, and innovatively. Then prepare them to become somebody who can think as needed or required by the future jobs. And STEM, we actually, the student can get key skill like problem solving, creativity, critical analysis, teamwork, independent thinking, initiative, communication, and digital literacy. And this is the learning framework for STEM. Experiential learning, innovative learning, teach concept, not procedure, inquiry-based learning, and learning by doing. So I would like to focus on the inquiry-based education, because this is our main project at the moment at the Ministry of at the National STEM Center, where most of the upskilling of our teachers in terms of their competencies, actually we focus to ensure that they can get the skills to conduct inquiry-based teaching and learning. Yeah? So inquiry-based education is grounded in the belief that it is important to ensure that students truly understand what they are learning and not simply memorize content and information. Yeah, this is the main idea, and through the activities that they do in this inquiry-based education, they will really understand the concept and they will be more interested. Yeah? So these are the elements of inquiry-based education. There are 3 elements: questions, procedure, conclusion. So we want our students to become more curious. We want to create curiosity among students, curiosity on certain phenomena. So we want them to ask questions. From the questions, they need to find answers for their own questions by doing investigation, exploration, by doing experiment through scientific procedure. Okay, so they have got these questions. Now they try to answer their own questions by exploring, by do the exploration, by investigating, by doing the experiment. And after they have got the answers from their investigation, from the experiment, they can make a conclusion. They can explain the answers to the teacher, to other students. So they learn through their own curiosity, and then they do activities to get the answers for the questions, and then they can explain the answers to others to sort of test or show that they really understand what they have learned. Yeah? So this is the 3 elements in inquiry-based education. And there are different level of inquiry, we have a confirmation inquiry, structured inquiry, guided inquiry, and open inquiry. We have different level of students, and for those who are really good, teachers maybe can go to higher level, such as guided and open inquiry. But the first level, confirmation inquiry, students are given all these 3 elements, 3 things. Yeah? They are given the questions, they are given the procedure to find the answer, to the question and they are already given the answers, the conclusion. So they just need to redo everything to confirm whatever knowledge that the teachers have. They have got from the teachers, just to confirm. So this is called confirmation inquiry, where it can be done by any student, no matter what level they are at. And the second level is structured inquiry. So in this structured inquiry, students are given the questions and procedures to find the answer for the questions, but they have to make their own conclusion. So that is structured inquiry, which is maybe suitable for slightly better students. And the third level is guided inquiry. In guided inquiry, students are only given questions. They have to come up with their own procedure to find the answers or to investigate to get the answer for the question that they are given, and they have to make their own conclusion. So that is the guided inquiry. And the last one, open inquiry, is everything done by the students, where in this kind of inquiry, students are just the facilitator. They facilitate students to come up with their own questions, and they need to come up with their own procedure, scientific procedure to investigate, and then they have to come up with their own conclusion. So we have 4 levels of inquiry, meaning this inquiry-based education can be done, we can do this with any level of students that we have, not necessarily with good students only. And at the Ministry of Education Malaysia, we propose this 5E model in order for our teachers to conduct inquiry-based education. They can follow this teaching model. We call it 5E. 5E stands for engage, explore, explain, elaborate, and evaluate. Okay. So at the first phase, engagement phase, students are engaged to so that they are curious to know about something. They can be related to or connected to their prior knowledge. This is actually equivalent to this section here, questions. So engage by asking questions or by asking our students to ask questions. And then after we have got the questions here, after they have become curious, they want to know about something, then we can go to the next phase where they have to explore. So here students will explore the concept, and in doing this exploration, they will do hands-on activities, experiment, do exploration, open-ended exploration, for example. And after this exploration or investigation or experiments, they have got the answers, they need to explain the answers. So at this phase, teachers can assist students to explain the concept that they have learned from the activities. So we can use textbook, we can use any other materials to assist here. Okay, so the first 3E, engage, explore, explain, actually have completed this cycle of inquiry-based education. The first one, engage, related to this one, question. The second one, explore, is this one, and explain is this one, conclusion. So the first 3 is a completed cycle of inquiry-based education already. But after they have learned a certain concept from the first 3 activities, they can use the concept that they have learned to learn more, to elaborate, to extend, so that maybe they can combine certain concept, a few concepts that they have learned to come up with another a bigger concept, for example, or they can use whatever knowledge they have got here to come up with project-based, by doing project-based learning, or to try to come up with a solution for real-world problems. So that is elaborate, the 4th E. And the last one, evaluate. Actually, this can be formative and also summative. And when we do formative evaluation, it can be throughout the lesson, not necessarily after they have gone through all the phase, this E phase. The evaluation can start even at the engagement phase, when we are engaging our students to come up with questions or to become curious, we can already evaluate them. So at every level or every phase, the evaluation can be done. So this is the 5E model that we encourage our teachers to use, especially when they do inquiry-based teaching and learning process. So back to this one. We want to prepare our students to become STEM literate and also STEM capable workforce in the future. So in order to do that, we use this STEM approach where it is this STEM approach is hands-on and integrated. They are also inquiry-based, process-focused, and student-centered. Okay, and this is in more detail on how we can conduct inquiry-based teaching and learning process for science, mathematics, or any other subjects. This inquiry-based education is applicable to any subjects, but it is more widely used in science education, especially. Okay, so I think this, so that is what I want to explain at the moment. I am open to any questions. So before I stop for Q&A session, I would like to read this. I'm not sure from whom, but I kind of like this words. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. So we cannot just fill our students with knowledge, but we have to sort of kindle the fire in them. So Dr. Nurul, that's it from me at the moment. I'm open to Q&A session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you Dr. Ihsan. Kalau doktor boleh tengok bahagian chat ni, there's some question yang ditanya di sini.
Stop sharing dulu.
Okay.
Okay, stop sharing. Okay, tengok chat. Chat. Mana saya nak tengok chat ni? Okay, chat. Alright. Okay, boleh Doktor pilih mana yang nak.
Okay, there's a question, I think from Rahmat Shazi.
Dr. Rahmat. Dr. Rahmat.
Asking about what form of the collaboration between industry and National STEM Center.
What form of collaboration? Okay.
Yeah.
What we need from the industry is their expertise, and their expertise that can be shared with our teachers and students. So, Dr. Rahmat, I'm sure you yourself are very, you have a very, a lot of experience in. So we want to share whatever that you have with our teachers and our students so that they know what the industry look like. So we can do some program that would be beneficial for our teachers and students, where they maybe can get the information straight from the expert in the industry. Okay. Okay, Dr. Ahmad.
Thank you, Dr. Ihsan.
Most welcome.
Okay, I just saya baca ni the question yang letak dalam chat ni, I think from Dr. Mazatul mention about dia kata there's not so many school offer Form 6 in science stream, especially in Perlis lah. Because the principal want to maintain their ranking. So she said there's few Malay students can do science in their Form 6 but change to non-science. Because school tak ada ni lah aliran Form 6 science. I think this also happen in the not form 5 also, form 6, form 4, form 5 pun macam tu juga saya ingat. Ada setengah sekolah yang memang dia tak nak offer kelas sains because of the ranking. You comment on that, Dr. Ihsan?
Yeah, this is the real issue. We are facing this kind of issue. Tapi apa yang kita sedang usahakan melalui 4 strategi antaranya adalah bagi kesedaran untuk increase awareness among the school leaders, school administrators about the importance of STEM, so that they have a better idea on how to prepare students for STEM, and at the same time still maintain the performance. So bila kita ambil STEM, yang pihak sekolah takut adalah performance akan turun kan. That's why dalam kita laksanakan aktiviti macam meningkatkan kompetensi guru dan ubah cara PDP lebih kepada hands-on tu, sebenarnya dia akan membawa pada peningkatan performance. So this is something yang saya rasa saya dah cuba banyak tahun untuk sampaikan bahawa kita boleh tingkatkan performance, and at the same time kita boleh buat hands-on, tambahkan STEM, buat hands-on dan tingkatkan performance. Kita dapat benda tu. So if the principals boleh faham benda ni, saya rasa masalah yang Dr. Maizatul cakap tadi akan mungkin boleh dibantu lah, mungkin boleh dibantu. Dan on our part, memang kita memberi penekanan di mana JPN memberi penekanan kepada untuk memastikan sekolah-sekolah tambah bilangan murid STEM ni. Bukan sahaja yang kita fokuskan adalah at the upper secondary level, tetapi bila dah tambah at upper secondary level, dia akan membawa kepada peningkatan at the form 6 level lah. So kalau sekarang kat upper secondary pun tak banyak, that's why form 6 tak ada student. Okay.
Dr. Ihsan, saya Maizatul. Saya rasa doktor, pentadbiran sekolah tu sendiri yang kita kena ubah. Sebab bila letak guru besar tu sastra, memang habis, aliran sains ni memang habis. Saya tengok kat sekolah anak saya. Walaupun student sastra tu dapat 8A, student sains dapat 8A, tapi sebab sains ambil 9 subjek, dia bagi anggap yang sastra tu bagus sebab tak ada B. Yang ni ada B. So mentality macam tu dia susah nak bergerak, doktor. So saya rasa kementerian kena ubah pengetua tu. So dia automatik dia senang nak susun. Tidak masalah ni dia berulang-ulang samalah.
Betul. Itu memang kami aware masalah tu.
Satu Malaysia.
Kita nak tukar pengetua kepada apa yang semuanya sains pun tak boleh lah, sebab definitely dari segi nak memegang jawatan pengetua ni dia kena from all backgrounds kan. Tapi melalui inisiatif yang kita buat dengan IAB, sebenarnya kita sedang bagi kefahaman lah tentang perkara ni. Dia akan ambil masa lah. Sekarang memang kita nampak masalah tu, kita dah mula usahakan untuk bantu pengetua-pengetua ni, tapi akan ambil masa untuk membolehkan sampai kepada level yang kita harapkan lah. Terima kasih lah. Memang kami aware tentang masalah tu dan usaha sedang dibuat.
Assalamualaikum.
Salam.
Kita dengar dalam papers tentang pelajar-pelajar lepasan STEM di universiti yang gagal bekerja di dalam atau berkait dengan kursus yang diambil semasa di universiti.
Okay.
So meaning that maybe we do not have enough prospect to the STEM leavers. So and definitely if we compare the burdens of studying science compared to us, memang science itu is more challenging. So do you think that is one of the reason why some of the students might shy away from doing science?
Yeah, it could be one of the reason, tapi to me dia bukan student, bukan mostly student yang gunakan that reason lah. most probably reason macam tu akan digunakan oleh parents yang dia nampak lah bahawa orang yang graduate dalam bidang tertentu dalam sains, dalam STEM ni tak ada kerja kan sekarang ni. But students, most of the students dia orang tak adalah fikir sampai macam tu. Tetapi apa yang kita usahakan sekarang ni adalah untuk menyediakan anak-anak kita ni kepada mungkin 5-10 tahun akan datang. Ini kita kena usaha daripada budak sekolah rendah, sekolah menengah ni, they are STEM literate, STEM capable. Masuk ke universiti, sebenarnya kita tak adalah macam kata kalau dia STEM kat sekolah, mesti kena STEM kat universiti. Kita nak bagi semua student ni STEM literate, dia STEM capable, so dia ada kebolehan untuk berfikir secara analytical melalui STEM. Itu yang penting. Dan dari segi pekerjaan, mungkin sekarang kita nampak ada pelajar yang tak dapat pekerjaan mengikut bidang dan sebagainya, tapi kita tidak boleh menggunakan data sekarang ni untuk kita ambil tindakan yang mungkin akan menjejaskan anak-anak kita pada masa depan. Sebab data secara global yang menunjukkan pada masa akan datang kebanyakan pekerjaan adalah berasaskan kepada STEM. Kata STEM pun dia bukan, kalau tengok yang senarai yang saya bagi tadi tu, mostly teknologi. Dan skill yang perlukan adalah skill untuk berfikir secara analytical. Jadi untuk membolehkan anak-anak ni dapat skill berfikir secara analytical tadi, itulah kita di sekolah ni kita nak diorang pergi kepada package STEM yang akan membolehkan dia mendapat that kind of skill. Sebab melalui subjek ni dia dilatih untuk buat aktiviti yang akan membawa kepada berfikir secara analytical. Tapi dengan syarat cara PDP itu dilaksanakan adalah seperti yang saya sebut tadi, inquiry based, hands on, tidaklah masuk ke belajar pasal STEM tetapi masih lagi fokus kepada teknik menjawab soalan, latih to be, dan tak dapat juga skills tu. So what we preparing now is actually for the future of students and also the country.
Doktor, senarionya mungkin in time to come kebanyakan kerja manusia akan diambil alih oleh robots, machine kan. So do you think at certain in the future kan chances to get a job itu akan semakin berkurang kerana banyak kerja kita diambil oleh robot. Contohnya kalau di lebuh raya kan sekarang dulu ramai pekerja at least boleh jadi tukang ambil bayar tol itu.
Ya, sekarang tak ada lah.
Sekarang dah tak ada. Itu contoh yang kita nampak setiap hari lah kan.
Okay, again, according to World Economic Forum, memang banyak pekerjaan akan hilang. Tetapi at the same time, pekerjaan baru akan wujud. Dan dia punya kita apa? Jumlah pekerjaan baru yang wujud tu dengan yang hilang tu, dia punya itu positif. Maksudnya lebih banyak pekerjaan baru yang akan wujud berbanding yang hilang. Tetapi that's why lah pekerjaan tu yang baru nanti dia tidak lagi berasaskan kepada benda yang kita boleh buat secara rutin. Macam dekat tour kan, rutinnya ambil bayar duit ataupun bagi kad kan, tu rutin. So pekerjaan yang akan datang tu lebih kepada yang memerlukan kebolehan untuk berfikir secara analytical. Sebab itulah kita kena berusaha ke arah memastikan anak-anak ni dapat that kind of skills. Sebenarnya pekerjaan apa yang akan wujud nanti kita pun tak pasti, ada lagi yang belum wujud sekarang tapi akan wujud nanti. Saya ada yang lupa nak off mic. Mohon untuk off mic kan, sebab dia mengganggu kita punya. Siapa yang lupa nak off mic tadi? Okay, right.
Okay, saya ingat saya nak highlight ada dekat chat ni. Okay, ada soalan-soalan yang ada daripada Zuhailmi ni, dia minta Dr. Ehsan, what the government maybe through pusat STEM ni initiative to ensure that learning equipment or kits are affordable for the typical government school budget.
Okay. At the moment yalah, kits tu memang kalau kita tengok macam orang buat aktiviti robotik semua kan memang very expensive. Tapi untuk makluman Cik Zulhelmi dan semua yang ada dalam ni, PetroScience ada come up dengan kits yang affordable. Memang kami bekerjasama lah untuk buat aktiviti menggunakan kits yang affordable daripada PetroScience. Dan selain daripada PetroScience, sebenarnya banyak lagi company-company lain yang menawarkan kits yang affordable, macam Esco Edutech contohnya, even Science Bridge Academy, they are coming up with kits untuk membantu pelaksanaan amali sains. Di mana kalau sebelum ni amali kita kena beli dia punya bahan kimia tu banyak-banyak kan. Dia boleh buat dalam bentuk pack kecil-kecil yang boleh pakai sekali pakai, lepas tu dah boleh let go. Usaha kat itu memang ada, dan untuk mata pelajaran sains tulen dengan peningkatan PCG bermakna sekolah mempunyai lebih wang, kemampuan untuk membeli bahan-bahan bagi membantu PDP. Termasuklah kit-kit yang dikatakan tadi, especially untuk sains tulen. Tetapi bagi mata pelajaran lain masih lagi kadar yang lama. So insyaAllah from time to time KPM akan review dan akan meningkatkan kadar tersebut, dan dengan menggunakan PCG itu pihak sekolah boleh membeli kits yang diperlukan oleh students.
Okey, satu lagi nak tanya ni pada intern workforce ni. Saya ingat dia tanya whether private STEM education center can collaborate with pusat STEM negara Turkistan lah. Dia tanya macam mana
Private STEM education, Eastern from RoboForce. How can private STEM education center get involved in contributing national STEM education development? Is there any opportunity for private sectors to be supported to contribute in this matter? Okay, as I mentioned earlier, actually, we do have collaboration with private STEM education center. What we do is we help them to sort of do their activities. We make it easier for them to do the activities with the schools, with the teachers and students. We don't have any specific budget for that, but we will help them in terms of connecting them with our schools and teachers. And also we can support them in terms of endorsing their program. So when we endorse their program, we connect them with our teachers and schools. We endorse their program when we see that their program is suitable and applicable with our teachers and students. So through that kind of activities, I think we are actually helping this private center to sort of promote activities, but when they want to sort of for example, when the schools, teachers, students need to use some kind of equipments, they have to buy it on their own. So that is between this private center and the schools, but on our part we will connect them and we will promote if the program, if the activities are suitable with what we are.
Okey, satu lagi doktor daripada Nur Azizi ni, dia tanya macam mana dia nak dapatkan data STEM daripada pusat STEM negara.
Data yang macam mana?
Dia tak mention ni. Kalau dia dalam ni boleh clarify dia punya question lah. Bukan dia kata dia
minta dia bercakap.
Nur Azizi.
Ada tak?
Nur Azizi.
Maksudnya tadi data secara general kan, maksudnya berapa persen yang mengambil mata pelajaran matematik dan juga sains. Tapi saya minat membantu, tapi nak tahu sama ada pelajar yang ketinggalan ni di luar bandar ke ataupun di bandar secara majoritinya. Jadi kalau kita ada data tu, kita boleh fokus lah mana yang diperlukan bantuan dan sebagainya. So like instead of just fokus sekolah.
Cik Azizi ni dari mana?
Jadi kalau data kan, saya dari UTSM.
Oh, pensyarah UTSM.
Saya.
Okey. Boleh berhubung direct dengan saya lah di Pusat STEM Negara untuk data-data yang lebih detail. Sebab saya tidak boleh nak release data detail tu secara umum macam ni kan. Kami ada, insyaAllah boleh. So kita boleh bincang. Memang saya perlukan universiti-universiti untuk bantu di lokaliti masing-masing dengan apa kita expertise yang ada pada pihak universiti. So boleh buat program di lokaliti masing-masing. InsyaAllah data-data tu kita boleh berkongsi.
Okey, terima kasih.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. Dr. Ihsan.
Waalaikumsalam. Ya.
Saya Dr. Nabil yang ada email doktor sebelum ni.
Oh, Dr. Nabil ya, Dr. Nabil.
Okey. Dr. Ihsan, apa khabar? Sihat?
Baik, alhamdulillah.
Jadi saya rasa macam terpanggil juga untuk saya macam membantu untuk agenda STEM national ni, sebab based on my own experience. Dulu masa sekolah lepas PMR tu saya tak layak masuk science stream disebabkan keputusan PMR saya yang agak teruk. So lepas puas memohon lastly lepas kebanyakan student pindah boarding school daripada sekolah saya, baru guru besar benarkan saya pindah ke science stream. So lepas tu saya rasa science stream memang susah dan keputusan SPM pun tak bagus. Lepas tu saya tak ke mana-mana sebab saya mohon ke universiti tapi tak dapat offer disebabkan keputusan SPM. Lepas tu saya diminta satu science foundation program yang saya masuk one semester saya kena reject, dismiss daripada universiti tu. And then that university given me another chance to enter second semester. So sejak tu saya dah ubah cara saya punya study method, focus and so on. So alhamdulillah saya boleh tukar daripada persepsi yang STEM based subjek ni susah kepada mudah dengan cara study method yang betul dan cara focusing. So alhamdulillah saya boleh sampai ke buat PhD dalam bidang chemical engineering dan sebagainya. Jadi saya rasa macam terpanggil untuk saya membantu untuk kita increase the number of STEM based students kat Malaysia ni, insyaAllah. Tu yang saya kontak dengan doktor tu kalau boleh nak kolaborasi dan sebagainya.
Terima kasih banyak Dr. Nabil. Memang saya sangat-sangat menghargai. InsyaAllah saya akan berhubung dengan Dr. Nabil nanti. Kita memang boleh rancang program. Kami dalam proses nak melaksanakan aktiviti-aktiviti kesiaran kepada murid-murid especially. Dalam hal ini saya rasa Dr. Nabil sangat sesuai untuk membantu. Mungkin boleh menceritakan kepada murid-murid kita yang rasa macam especially science tulian ni susah. Pengalaman Dr. Nabil sendiri yang dulu rasa macam susah awalnya, kemudian macam mana boleh jadi benda tu boleh berubah menjadi senang kan. Jadi insyaAllah Doktor, terima kasih banyak. Kita akan berhubung dengan Doktor nanti.
Assalamualaikum semula. Dr. Ihsan, saya Zaidi sebenarnya daripada Pusat Asasi UiTM Bengkel.
Oh, dekat jiran kita ni.
Jiran je, saya tahu Dr. Ihsan dia datang ke sini tetapi saya bukan dalam komiti STEM di sini. Tetapi sebenarnya saya ada buat sedikit research tentang STEM. Saya melihat misalnya di Pusat Asasi kita ada buat collaboration dengan sekolah-sekolah di sekitar. Cuma kadang-kadang saya agak kurang setuju, tetapi mungkin berdasarkan apa yang dibincangkan tadi kan, kita nak tarik budak seronok kepada sains. Tetapi at the end, because that is the what do you call that, the practice of education in Malaysia, the student will be evaluated, and we will say that the good student are those who gets A. Yang dapat A itu is not good student, they do not have the potensi, kurang potensi lah kita kata, tak ada potensi nanti marah pula orang kan. Tetapi kita pergi ke sekolah, kita nampak budak bila kita kata buat main, kita memang create activity yang budak akan nampak seronok kan. Tapi they only get the seronok part, but they do not get what is actually behind the seronok itu. So seronok, main-main, that's it. Lepas tu dia tinggalkan kursus kita, dia dah hilang dah sebenarnya. Dia tak dapat the essence of doing the activity.
Okay, understood. Sekarang ni memang kami ada bincang. Sebenarnya bila kita buat IBSC, Inquiry Based Science Education, Mathematics Education ni, kita nak budak seronok dan faham. Dia bukan sahaja buat aktiviti, just aktiviti. Contohnya dia buat pasal gunung berapi. Masuk-masuk jadi gunung berapi kan, tapi dia tak tahu pun apa benda yang berlaku sebenarnya. So kita tidak mahu macam tu. Memang aktiviti yang dilaksanakan, yang kita nak buat dengan cikgu, pembangunan kompetisi cikgu ni adalah buat aktiviti bukan sekadar bagi seronok tapi budak faham. Tujuan aktiviti tu adalah untuk murid kita faham apa yang dia belajar. Okay, jadi dengan cara itu insya-Allah dia akan lebih faham dan akan membantu keputusan perbezaan. Memanglah pesan penting. Kalau kita pergi ke sekolah sekarang ni, seperti yang saya cakap tadi dalam pembentangan saya, memang saya agak sukar nak ubah pandangan bahawa kita tak boleh buat semua ni aktiviti ni sebab budak-budak hanya buat seronok tapi exam teruk kan. Jadi yang kita nak ubah adalah sebenarnya aktiviti itu kita kena rancang in such a way dia akan membawa kepada peningkatan kefahaman, peningkatan kemahiran dan akan membawa kepada akhirnya pencapaian cemerlang dalam perbezaan. Okay? Saya nak ambil contoh Cikgu Helmi. Siapa tak kenal Cikgu Helmi kan? Dia pernah ada dalam Cikgu Helmi boleh cakap juga nanti. Tahun 2019 keputusan SPM, Sains SPM Cikgu Helmi 30% dapat A. Budak kampung tu, SMK Jerlun kampung 30% dapat A. Sama ada A plus, A ataupun A minus. which is higher than sekolah yang lebih baik daripada SMK Jerlun. Sebab Cikgu Helmi memang laksanakan IBSE, buat hands on, buat yang dia kata yang 5E dan sebagainya. So inilah kefahaman yang kita cuba nak bagi dekat pihak pentadbir sekolah, cikgu bahawa kena buat itu yang akan membantu akhirnya bukan saja peperiksaan tetapi budak pelajar dia dapat ilmu dan sebagainya dan akhirnya membawa kepada peperiksaan yang lebih baik. Mungkin Cikgu Helmi boleh tambah sikit, Cikgu Helmi. Ada tu, saya nampak Cikgu Helmi ada tu.
Tak jawab pun.
Tak jawab.
Tadi ada.
Okey. Tak apa kalau okey, tak apa kita boleh pergi kepada adakah saya menjawab soalan tadi, Cik Zaidi?
Betul. Alhamdulillah.
Okey, terima kasih. So kita boleh jumpa nanti.
Masya-Allah.
Okey,
Tadi saya nampak
ada soalan daripada Nurdiana Kamarudin ni. Dia ada mention pasal masalah sekarang ni bila buat online teaching ni lah. So, dia tanya sama ada pusat STEM ada buat tak satu platform ke ataupun untuk R&D between universiti dengan pusat STEM ni kalau macam mana?
Okey.
Kontak dengan siapa?
Baguslah ditimbulkan tentang perkara ni. Sebenarnya kami baru-baru ni kami present kepada Yayasan Guru Tunisia On untuk melaksanakan, untuk dapatkan bajet bagi melaksanakan IBME ataupun kita namakan pembelajaran matematik secara empiri. Tapi because of COVID-19 ni, dia orang minta kami bagi plan B. Plan B iaitu macam mana kita nak laksanakan satu kaedah secara online. Bukan saja online tu untuk membolehkan cikgu dapat, tetapi untuk membolehkan cikgu nanti dia akan mengajar murid secara online. Dia akan sort of ada satu platform untuk itulah. Jadi sebenarnya kami pun dalam proses untuk berbincang dengan pakar-pakar daripada universiti untuk bantu pusat STEM come up dengan that kind of platform. Jadi kalau sudi bantu kami, minta hubungi saya melalui email, nanti saya akan rope in untuk perbincangan bagi menyediakan platform tersebut. Terima kasih.
Ini saran saya personal lah. Apa ni disebabkan kami di universiti ni sangat semua universiti yang ada dalam yang join ni setuju lah. Kami kekurangan pelajar STEM ni agak yang boleh masuk dalam STEM ni agak kritikal lah. Okay, macam tadi Dr. Ihsan tunjuk 50-60% fail and then dia menyebabkan 20% saja. Boleh tengoklah tahun 2014 dan sekarang universiti dah ada 20 universiti ni. Saya ingat yang buat sains dengan buat STEM ni banyak universiti kecuali mungkin UUM je tak ada tu. So apa pandangan Dr. Ihsan lah kalau universiti buat inisiatif dia cuba cari talent STEM ni di kalangan pelajar yang bukan dalam sains, walaupun kolej metrik tak membenarkan lah, dia macam MBA ni syarat syar'i wajib lah. Saya ingat pusat ada pusat STEM, pusat asasi STEM UMT paling baik lah saya ingat. Dia orang buat contoh yang dia orang boleh groom pelajar bukan dalam sains kan. Tapi itulah tak banyak lah. Especially macam Perlis lah. Perlis ni walaupun sikit tapi kewujudan UNIMAP ni gagal merancakkan lagi minat pelajar ni lah. Saya tengok tak ada apa sangat lagi. Mungkin orang Perlis pun tak mau duduk tak mau masuk UNIMAP. Itulah pandangan Dr. Ihsan lah.
Okey. Betul tu Dr. Nazri. Kita data yang saya tunjuk tu menunjukkan for the past 7 years macam tu saja kan. Mana despite all our efforts, cikgu-cikgu sangat rajin sebenarnya macam-macam cikgu buat nak meningkatkan keputusan murid-murid ni, tapi kita nampak yang gagal tu masih lagi dalam lingkungan 50% untuk matematik dengan sains kan, which is very worrying lah. Jadi kalau lah sebelum tu saya nak maklumkan UUM ada STEM, dia orang ada pusat STEM baru ditubuhkan dan kami akan berkolaborasi dengan UUM tak lama lagi untuk buat satu kolokium pendidikan STEM. Mungkin juga Dr. Nazri UNIMAP boleh turut sertalah nanti ya. Jadi berbalik kepada soalan Dr. Nazri tadi, kita dah ada contoh UMT buat asas sistem, dia ambil murid bukan aliran sains untuk masuk dan saya rasa berjaya, benda tu berjaya. Tetapi masih lagi syaratnya adalah murid yang dapat sains, matematik walaupun dia bukan sains student tapi kena dapat good result kan, A dan sebagainya. Mungkin pihak universiti kena bantu sekolah especially murid, kalau sekarang ni kita ada package STEM C yang dia tidak ambil subjek pure science tapi dia ambil 12 mata pelajaran STEM gunaan tu. Jadi bantu dia orang ni, mungkin sediakan satu laluan untuk dia orang ni sambung belajar lepas habis SPM. Ini telah dimulakan oleh UiTM Dengkil yang melalui Prof. Saifullah yang telah pun datang ke pusat STEM berbincang tentang perkara ini. Mereka sedang cuba come up dengan satu program khusus untuk murid-murid yang STEM C tadi. So mungkin universiti lain, UNIMAP dan other universiti kalau boleh juga sediakan peluang yang sama. Jadi kita akan menyediakan lebih banyak ruang kepada murid-murid tadi untuk pergi ke sambung belajar di universiti dengan mempunyai kelulusan dalam bidang ataupun mata pelajaran yang bukan pure science tadi, ya, dia STEM C namanya. Tetapi pada masa yang sama, kepakaran pihak universiti saya rasa macam di Perlis adalah sangat diperlukan untuk membantu cikgu dan murid di Perlis supaya mereka lebih faham matematik faham matematik dan akhirnya boleh mendapat kelulusan yang lebih baik dalam matematik. Takkanlah for the past 7 years, lepas tu I don't know for the next how many more years, peratus yang gagal masih lagi 50%. If we keep on doing the same thing, latih to be, I'm not surprised kalau yang gagal mungkin bukan saja 50%, mungkin naik kepada 80% sebab murid tak minat. Jadi kepakaran universiti, bicara-bicara, cikgu untuk kita tengok balik macam mana cara kita nak buat, nak mengajar tu PDP tu supaya bukan hanya latih untuk jawab soalan-soalan. InsyaAllah dengan cara itu kita dapat atasi masalah tak cukup calon murid-murid nak pergi ke universiti, especially dalam bidang yang berkaitan dengan STEM. Okey. Tadi saya ada baca satu soalan daripada Dr. Chiam. Dr. Chiam ada tanya tentang pembaikan makmal. InsyaAllah melalui tahun ini, baru-baru ini mungkin ada yang mengikuti Facebook Pusat STEM tu. Kami ada mohon sekolah-sekolah yang memerlukan untuk membaiki makmal untuk berhubung PM, untuk berhubung dengan Pusat STEM, dan kami dah bagi satu template permohonan. Memang dalam masa satu hari saya buka tu sebab kami pun masa kebetulan dibagi peluang tu sekejap saja. Satu hari saya dapat more than 400 permohonan. Kami yang memenuhi syarat mengikut format tu dapatlah dalam lebih kurang 150 projek yang kami dapat submit. InsyaAllah untuk itu adalah untuk rancangan Malaysia ke-12 Rolling Plan 2 yang akan bermula tahun 2022. So selepas ini akan pergi kepada Rolling Plan 3 bermula tahun 2023. Kami akan berhubung dengan sekolah lebih awal. Kita akan dapatkan maklumat, pembaikan semuanya, dan setiap tahun Pusat STEM akan bantu untuk memohon peruntukan untuk membaiki makmal sains yang rosak, especially yang perlu refurbish. But at the same time kami juga sedang berusaha mendapatkan peruntukan dari segi penyelenggaraan. Itu juga antara usaha yang penting yang kita perlu pastikan dapat supaya makmal sains ini dapatlah digunakan secara yang lebih kondusif.
Assalamualaikum sekali lagi Dr. Ihsan.
Waalaikumsalam.
Sekali lagi. Boleh saya bertanya pandangan Dr. Ihsan, kan in certain countries kan they do not have this kind of streaming into science or the non-science.
Sorry, they do not have what? They do not have what?
The tracking of streaming students into science or non-science at early age. Macam kita kan bila form 4 pelajar akan dipesahkan kepada sains dan non-sains kan. Let's say di US, saya mungkin saya salah bahagian itu. Tetapi saya rasa memang ada beberapa negara, even di Singapore pun, they allow the student to explore their potential sampai ke umur 17 tahun. Then only when they are mature enough kan, then only they choose either to be in science stream or the non-science stream. Mungkin kaedah begitu kan menyebabkan pelajar lebih menyedari tentang potensi diri because they are mature, kita kata lebih matang to make the correct choice. What do you think about that?
Sebenarnya apa yang kita buat selama ini adalah kita punya sistem pendidikan lah. Ini yang dimaksudkan dengan sistem pendidikan, di mana kita ada 6 tahun di sekolah rendah, pergi kepada 3 tahun menengah rendah, 2 tahun menengah atas, kemudian kita pergi kepada lepas menengah. Itu adalah sistem pendidikan. saya tidak ada maklumat yang spesifik tentang macam mana boleh jadinya sistem pendidikan yang macam ni, tetapi apa yang dibuat ini adalah berdasarkan kepada apa yang berlaku di negara lain juga, di mana pada peringkat tertentu memang kita dah kena lorongkan murid ni dalam bidang yang dia nak. In fact, in some countries, Form 1 lagi dia dah asingkan. Sejak Form 1 dia dah bagi dah budak tu untuk pilih mana yang dia minat. Tapi kita bermula daripada Form 4. Dan benda ni kalau kita lewatkan mungkin sampai lepas SPM baru dia nak pilih, saya rasa kita akan mungkin kehilangan dari segi peluang untuk bagi skills yang dia perlu dapat untuk dia membolehkan nanti dia sampai lepas menengah tu dia akan pilih bidang apa tu. So skills tu dia kena dapat masa form 1 to 3 tu okey masih umum, tapi form 4 tu kita kena bagi skills yang lebih spesifik walaupun tidaklah spesifik sangat sampai dia tak boleh buat bidang lain. Jadi setakat ini kita amalkan yang macam itu. Saya nampak beberapa contoh negara lain yang saya pernah pergi baru sebelum ni lah, ada yang bermula pada form 1 dia dapat asingkan. Di Singapura sendiri saya rasa dia ada pengasingan tu dibuat, tapi saya tak ingat level mana, mungkin sama kita ataupun lebih awal. Dan mungkin ada dalam kalangan pensyarah di sini, sama ada pensyarah IPG atau universiti yang lebih tahu tentang ni, mungkin boleh bagi pandangan lah kalau ada. Kita hanya ada dalam 7 minit saja lagi. Pukul 4 kita terpaksa berhenti.
Tuan Ihsan, saya ingat dulu saya saja nak share, saya ingat saya pernah buat satu survey lebih kurang hampir 2,000 orang pelajar. Cara tak formal lah, saya tahu KPM kalau ikut survey dia kena ada surat semua. But now saya buat based on siapa yang join program PILE itu, sama ada pelajar dalam aliran sains di sekolah luar bandar, sama ada orang betul-betul minat ataupun tak masuk kelas sains ni. So agak mengejutkan because dalam kelas sains sendiri pun dalam 10 ke 20% tak minat. So bila diorang dah habis, diorang kata diorang decide memang tak akan buat bidang STEM dah. So mungkin proses pemilihan pelajar ke aliran sains tu mungkin berbeza zaman saya, zaman Dr. Ihsan lah. Saya dengar sekarang ni macam sampai dia bagi freedom kepada pelajar nak pilih tak nak pilih. Saya ada sekolah saya contact, dia orang buat bukan paksa rela lah. Tapi sebenarnya yang dah masuk dalam tu pun tak minat juga lah. Itu jadi isu yang saya ingat sepanjang saya bagi talk hampir 5-6 tahun di sekolah ni pun yang saya nampak itulah. Tapi mungkin ramai yang tak tahu, mungkin orang nampak kita boleh buat something melalui KPM. Tapi saya ingat mungkin di universiti kita rasa kita dapat diversity student tapi lokasi dia satu. Sekolah ni beza dia, lokasi berbeza. Masyarakat budaya dia lain. So kalau nak buat, saya ingat Dr. Ihsan faham kot kalau bagi arahan pada pengetua, it's not semua pengetua dalam daerah tu boleh follow because dia punya environment, demografi tu lah yang lain lah. So kalau ada soalan lagi, kita boleh satu soalan je last and then dekat nak habis kompat dah ni. Ada satu soalan.
Boleh saya tanya satu soalan kah?
Okey, boleh.
Terima kasih. Oh ada, tidak soalan.
Saya bagi soalan tadi berkaitan dengan kerjaya. Sebab saya nampaklah kerajaan Malaysia dia tak sediakan satu ruang untuk orang go for STEM. Sebab stream student kita hantar ke Ivy League University, kita hantar BTU. Tetapi bila balik, dia kerja contoh di universiti, gaji dia sama dengan pensyarah non-science dan study di lokal. Di situ kita dah jadi satu brain drain. Dan ramai kawan-kawan saya akan kerja di luar negara. Itu satu. Kedua yang saya nampak, contoh bila matematik, kita nampak pensyarah cikgu. Padahal kita tengok Microsoft, dia punya MD dulu ialah Datuk Yasmin is graduate from Maths. So sekarang dia jadi CEO di MDEC. So kita kena explore benda tu besar. Malaysia dia tak boleh ikut style macam dulu. Kita makan pun dah berubah menu kita, betul tak Dr. Ihsan? Jadi kenapa education kita masih stick yang sama? Balik kepada aplikasi tadi, ada soalan tanya pasal aktiviti roket air contoh kan?
Okay.
Anak saya dia habis SPM, bila habis SPM 2 tahun lepas tu baru dia apply dia punya nulis pasal SPM. Bila dia nampak semut, dia kata semut ni nak halang semut supaya jangan banyak di dalam rumah, dia kena ada bahan kimia yang ini contoh ni dia sebutlah nama kimia dia. Yang tu boleh dapat di dapur. boleh dapat di dapur. So maksud dia doktor, dia budak ni dia tak boleh belajar terus pandai. Dia kena lalu proses macam kita manusia, kita kahwin tak tahu jadi suami atau bapa yang baik. Dia ada proses, learning proses. So kita tak boleh harap anak kita dengan result dia elok terus jadi pandai doktor. Dan saya setuju kalau kita buat benda ni, macam doktor kata, result ni kita akan nampak 10 tahun lagi. Tetapi pihak pengurusan, pengetua dengan cikgu lah yang menaikkan semangat budak untuk belajar sains. Saya rasa saya ambil engineering pun sebab saya tengok zaman kita dulu kita ada cerita Buck Rogers, kita ada macam-macam cerita sains. Kita ada cerita MacGyver. So benda-benda macam tu yang tak ada sekarang ni anak kita tengok. Bila anak kita tengok cerita lawak kat TV, tengok cerita reality show, nyanyian. Jadi saya rasa di situlah kita punya peranan lah sebagai academician dan orang di dalam kementerian yang sesuai untuk kita talent balik kita punya anak-anak ni. Surrounding tu kan betul. Saya ni saya tengok tak betul. Contoh saya, kenapa saya ambil electronic engineering? Sebab saya tengok satu movie tu Ryan O'Neal, dia seorang pecudi. Cara dia nak rompak bank, setiap kali dia letak bank dia akan letak satu chest punya ni, dia bagi tahu langkah dia kat mana. So dia play around dengan polis dengan melayani chest tu. So di situ bukan Ryan O'Neal tu sebagai engineer yang bijak. Masa tu dia menggunakan komputer tahun 1980-an lagi. Jadi saya tertarik untuk buat engineering sebab saya nampak Ryan O'Neal yang cerita macam tu. Saya rasa yang itulah yang kita kurang sekarang ni, dedah pada anak-anak kita. Terima kasih doktor.
Betul, saya setuju. Especially bila kita all out hantar tuition. Sebagai parent, all out hantar tuition. Pagi, petang, malam. Ada kawan anak saya, masa masuk saja form 4 tahun 2 tahun lepas, hari pertama form 4, setiap petang dia pergi tuition, weekend, hari Sabtu tuition lain, Ahad tuition lain. Sebab terlampau nak menyediakan budak tu kepada exam. Jadi benda ni saya rasa dah berlaku secara menyeluruh, kebanyakan orang buat macam tu. Kalau tak buat macam tu nanti takut anak tertinggal. Sama juga di sekolah pun terpaksa fokus sebab pada pandangan kita satu-satunya cara untuk bagi budak ni dapat ikutan cemerlang adalah tuition, latih tubi. Jadi usaha yang kami sedang buat sekarang ini adalah untuk bagi kebanyakan semua orang lah kalau boleh, mak bapak, cikgu, pentadbir sekolah faham, nak bagi budak dapat ikutan cemerlang, minat sebagainya, buat aktiviti, buat hands on, buat inquiry base. Jadi insyaAllah dengan cara itu, apa yang Puan Maizatul cakap tadi tu, kita akan cuba dapat atasi lah. Cuma bila orang kata kita terpaksa buat macam tu sebab pihak atasan nak tengok results, ini yang kita nak bagi semua pihak faham balik bahawa memang kita nak results, tapi untuk tengok results tu bukan dengan cara kita hanya latih tubi, sebab latih tubi tu result dia tak meningkat pun ya. Jadi kalaulah boleh buat macam kita dedahkan dengan movie tadi, kita buat aktiviti yang mungkin benda yang biasa-biasa ada di sekeliling dalam rumah tu macam-macam kan, nak mengelakkan lipas lah, nak bagi toilet kita bersih pakai cuka dengan bikarbonat soda kan contohnya kan, itu ada elemen sainsnya di situ. Dan yang inilah yang akan membawa ke anak kita akan lebih minat dengan sains dan akhirnya akan membantu menghasilkan ataupun mewujudkan yang disebut sebagai STEM capable workforce pada masa akan datang. Terima kasih.
Ada soalan ni Teramat?
Boleh saya buat cadangan?
Last question.
Okay.
Tu cadangan saja, bukan soalan. Saya cadangkan Dr. Ihsan, National STEM Center jalankan satu pertandingan di mana siapa yang boleh hasilkan kit STEM menggunakan bahan-bahan yang mudah diperolehi. Kertas, gelang getah, gitu. Sebab apa? Sekolah-sekolah kita memang kita faham ada cabaran dengan kos. Lepas itu sekarang ni dengan pandemik, saya tak tahu bila lah budak-budak boleh pergi balik sekolah. Wallahualam. Tapi pengalaman kami, bila kita jalankan aktiviti macam ini, yang mana bahan-bahan yang digunakan untuk aktiviti STEM itu mudah diperolehi, dia dapat, orang kata macam mana, pelajar lebih, orang kata lebih higher, orang kata accessibility. Itu satu. Tapi kit-kit tersebut kena direka dengan aktiviti yang selari yang akan tambah nilai. Kalau tidak, saya beri contoh Dr. Ihsan, kapal kertas lipat macam tu, banyak aktiviti kita boleh buat walaupun pada peringkat universiti. apatah lagi pada peringkat sekolah. Contoh je bagaimana penggunaan flap, penggunaan aileron, penggunaan rudder, bagaimana sudut pembukaan aileron tu, apa kesannya kepada penerbangan pesawat tersebut, pesawat kertas tersebut. Mudah tapi banyak yang boleh diturunkan. Jadi saya cadangkanlah mungkin satu pertandingan dalam bentuk tersebut menghasilkan kit serta modul-modul yang betul-betul selari dengan IBSE.
Okay.
Dan nanti insyaAllah nanti kita sembang kemudian Dr. Ihsan, sebab saya sekarang ni tengah bantu Kerajaan Selangor untuk menyarikan pada peringkat kejaya tu yang mana tadi cikgu ataupun Dr. Nur Mazana tanya tadi kan. InsyaAllah ini akan bantulah. Wallahualam.
Terima kasih banyak Dr. Ahmad. Satu soalan yang baik. Ya, okey.
Okay. Balik kepada Tuan Rahmat maksudkan tadi tentang kapal terbang tadi kan. Sebenarnya saya pernah buat dalam kelas saya bagi selai kertas untuk student paling kertas yang paling jauh sekali. Saya nak tengok siapa dan saya bagi RM10. Di situ saya nampak lebih daripada 10 design bagaimana orang buat kapal terbang kertas. Di situ saja kita boleh capture. Itu belum kita masuk technical punya lagi. Itu baru design lipat-lipat saja. Di situ yang saya rasa cikgu, bila saya nampak tu saya impress. Betul je, artinya anak kita ni kreatif. Terima kasih.
Ya. Terima kasih Puan Maizatul dan Dr. Rahmat. Jadi cadangan Dr. Rahmat tadi sangat bagus. Saya akan nanti kita berbincang macam mana kita boleh laksanakan perkara ini. Untuk makluman Dr. Nazri dan Audrey adalah pakar space engineering, aerospace, pakar aerospace kerja.
Sekarang ni baru masuk space, doktor. Saya dah ke division angkasa lepas. Untuk pengetahuan doktor. Nanti dah nanti sembang.
Okey. Jadi sebelum saya sudahi sesi saya ni, just nak jawab satu soalan daripada cikgu. Saya rasa cikgu ni, Cikgu Sarah daripada SJKT Tun Sam Banten, Bido Perak. Macam mana dia tanya macam mana nak buat program-program atau berkolaborasi dengan STEM untuk buat program di kawasan pedalaman especially. So saya mohon Cikgu Saravana untuk berhubung dengan saya directly. Saya punya email, boleh tengok dalam saya punya Facebook, boleh contact WM saya dalam Facebook, ataupun kalau nak email saya adalah drihsan.ismail@gmail.com. So boleh email saya dan kita boleh berbincang. Jadi setakat itu saja. Dr. Nazri, saya serahkan kepada Dr. Nazri. Terima kasih. Okey,
saya ucap terima kasih Dr. Ihsan atas talk dia dan sudi jemputan pada kami. Saya ucap terima kasih juga pada semua partisipan yang join ni. Tengok mungkin through Dr. Ihsan punya Facebook lah yang ramai ni kan. Seminar daripada fakulti saya ni akan berlangsung sepanjang tahun. Kalau ada dalam ni yang berminat untuk share data platform ni, kalau tak boleh contact saya, boleh contact. Kalau yang kenal Dr. Ihsan, mungkin Dr. Ihsan boleh pass pada saya lah. Dalam tahun ni juga saya akan cuba bawa satu lagi STEM, tapi STEM daripada Singapura, daripada NTU, Prof. Kwek, salah seorang yang sangat aktif di Singapura berkenaan dengan STEM. Saya minta dia share pengalaman STEM di Singapura, apa yang dia orang boleh buat, apa yang dia orang dah buat yang kita boleh contohilah. Saya jumpa dia di Bangalore itu. Even dia pun tak apa happy dengan Singapura, walaupun kita nampak Singapura nampak cantik lah dia punya ni. Dia kata dia tak pilih tarikh lagi, so dia boleh join lah. Saya akan cuba juga dapatkan daripada daripada presenter lain lah. Saya actually nak bawa kami ada hubungan baik dengan Taksin Universiti yang saya dipahamkan di Patalung campus di Taksin Universiti. Dia orang ada buka satu sekolah dalam universiti. Dia orang ada part of STEM dia orang terapkan dalam sekolah dalam kampus lah. One day kalau dia orang boleh, saya akan bawa juga, dan juga maybe daripada Indonesia. Jadi boleh kita bertukar-tukar platform di sini lah, sama ada cara dia orang buat tu adalah terbaik ataupun apa yang kita boleh ikut daripada dia orang lah. So sekali lagi saya ucap terima kasih kepada Dr. Ihsan. Jatuh kuasa saya akan hantar sijil penghargaan through email lah. Kita dah tak boleh nak bagi komputer ni kan. Jadi saya ucap terima kasih sekali lagi kepada Dr. Ihsan dan semua yang hadir. So saya harap semua yang ada sini dapat knowledge lah whatever yang Dr. Ihsan share dalam ni. So terima kasih sekali lagi. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih semua.